to 123 Conversations, the show where we ask one topic or interview one guest with the two hosts, myself, Candice Thomas, joined by the lovely Terry Dean, and we ask our guests or ask of the topic 3 questions. So that's where we come up with our name, 123 Conversations. However, we never really keep it to 3 questions. We probably need to change our name, yada, yada. You probably heard this before if you've been watching our shows here on YouTube or wherever you're listening to us. So thank you for watching. A little bit about me. I'm an intuitive coach. Terry, my co-host here, is a creative entrepreneur who has over 30 years of experience in sales and marketing and all sorts of cool shit. And today I am so thrilled because one of my favorite people ever is joining us live on, well, it's not live for you, but live for us. It's the time we're recording it. One of my favorite people ever is Laura Schek, who on my screen is below. Yay! Hey, Laura. Thank you for coming. So Laura Schek is a professional psychic medium, certified and everything, and also a Reiki master. She's been a psychic medium her whole entire life, but she's been in business for about 5 years. And her specialties, not just in mediumship or evidential mediumship, which means, and she'll tell us more about this, but she gives evidence about people who have passed away and are in the spirit world, in the afterlife, if you will. She also specializes in animal communication and forensic mediumship. So Laura is the person, when people want a psychic reading, I refer them to her because she's so brilliant. She's one of the best psychic mediums that I've met and experienced. I've met so many, and especially some of the famous ones and levels. Laura's on their level. So I'm super excited that she's with us today. And hello, Laura, how are you doing?
I'm good, Candice. Hi, Terry. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
You betcha. So I want to dive in for people who might not understand what a medium is. Would you explain what is your definition of a psychic medium, and what is it that you do? How would you describe it?
A medium is somebody that's able to raise their vibration and connect with loved ones who have crossed over. The difference between a psychic and a medium is that a psychic can connect with your energy and get information about what's happening in your life. Things like information about jobs, family matters, relationships, things that are current in your life. Whereas a medium is able to make that connection with a departed loved one. Mediums are also psychic, but not all psychics are mediums.
Interesting. Yeah. At what point did you know you were a medium? We were talking before and you said, you know, your whole entire life, but what was that like for you being a medium?
As I had mentioned, I saw my first ghost, if you will, when I was 5 years old. I've always been drawn to metaphysical things, and I always just had an inner knowing about things. Like I would get a feeling that something was going to happen. And then I had a significant family loss. I had a member of my family cross over, and that's when things really started to open up and develop for me. I went to a psychic medium, and my husband did come through. And then after that, everything just kind of, as I said, exploded. Things started happening. I started seeing things. I started hearing things. And I went back to the medium, and she said to me, well, Laura, you're a medium and you need to do this work. And that's when I started finding a reputable mediums to study with, to learn how to expand and hone my own abilities.
I love everything about that. And I'm so curious, when this person said, oh, Laura, you're a medium too, did you believe it? Or were you like, no?
Actually, I did. Because of the things that were happening to me personally, it all kind of fell into place like a puzzle. The last pieces were finally coming together. And that's when it really made sense to me why I was experiencing everything I had experienced over the course of my lifetime up to that point. So it really did make sense.
Wow. So not even just those moments of with your loss, it was your whole entire life made sense. I mean, if you're seeing ghosts at 5, which is a whole, story within and of itself, like, yeah, okay, interesting. I'm really curious when you said, oh, reputable medium, you just brought that up. What do you mean by that? Like, what makes a psychic or a medium reputable versus someone who isn't?
Well, personally, I think a reputable medium is somebody that has gone through some type of training, has proven abilities, if you will. The information that they are giving is accurate. The person that they're giving the information to understands what's being said, recognizes the bits of evidence that are being presented. So that's basically my interpretation of what a reputable medium is.
Can I ask a question? Just a little deeper, Laura, are there questions? I mean, what's the best way to frame that if someone is out there, kind of doing some shopping or looking to do some work with a psychic medium? What type of questions, because it's not like there's a school that you go to and they say, okay, well, now you are deemed a psychic medium. So are there just, a few basic questions that people need to kind of lock into and work from to make sure they're in good hands? Because it's a big responsibility when you're entrusting someone to relay messages. And I would think that could really trip a person up if the messages coming through were things that didn't make sense. Or
well, firstly, I think a good way to find a reputable medium is to ask your friends that are open to this type of thing and have gone to mediums themselves. If they've gone to somebody that they feel was really accurate, they got the information that they were looking for, or information that was presented to them was clear and helped them with the problem or the situation or the question that they had, then that would be somebody that I would suggest you might want to consider, because it's already somebody that that's been there, right, and they trust the information. If you don't have anybody that that is open to mediumship and has had a session with a medium, the next thing you might want to consider is finding out if there are any spiritualist churches in your area. A lot of times spiritualist churches will offer classes and train developing mediums, and they might be able to give you the name and number of somebody that they feel has completed their training or is developed enough that they're able to really give you a good, valid reading.
Super. And I guess if anyone's watching this show and they have any familiarity with Candice, they know they can direct message Candice, because this is the world in which she lives. So,
and I will give them Laura if they're looking for a reading. That's what's up. And there is a psychic school, or a mediumship development school, but people don't talk about it here in the States. It's over in the UK, Arthur Findlay College. And there are like other schools like Journey Within here that Laura was mentioning earlier, which is, I think that's also a spiritualist organization. But spiritualism, their mission is to prove life after death. And so if you go to a reading with a spiritualist medium, you don't tell them any information. They will pull evidence. So it's like, and the evidence, depending by medium, how they work, it varies. But Laura is really amazing. So coming to forensic mediumship, that's something I absolutely go to Laura for, because it's not that I can't do it. I just don't feel really comfortable with it. I don't have a whole lot of training in that area. And so what Laura is saying is, I wouldn't feel right if someone was like, I have a missing person here, Candice, can you help? It's like, well, I'll give you what I'm giving now, but I'm going to like refer it to a specialist, which is Laura for me. And a perfect example of the kind of information a trained medium can get is, there was a person who came to me, I think it's been a couple of years now, and her son was missing, and he had run away. It wasn't something nefarious, even though that doesn't make it better. And when I was just telling Laura, I was like, oh my gosh, this woman reached out to me and like her son's missing. that was all I said. And Laura was like, oh, is he around this age and is this personality and this is why he left? And this is, and by the way, in order for the son to come back, the mom would have to do this. And this is where they've been butting heads. And also there's another person involved. And this was what's like, it's just like a fountain. All these things came when I said, oh, I don't know what to do. This woman contacted me. And I just wrote everything down. Like, she gets to talking. I was like, yep. And I texted the information to the woman who reached out to me. She validated everything. She was like, yeah, we did have this argument. This person is involved. And the thing that also stood out to me, and I've met other mediums who can do this, but where I feel magical with Laura is Laura also said, hey, if this person wants a relationship with their son, avoid saying and doing this. And this is what this person will respond to, and this is what can help repair the relationship. And so that was exactly the advice that this mom, who was desperate, had hired a private investigator and everything. Like, that was the most helpful advice. Not someone that could just tell you all the evidence, but Laura has this, and she's being really humble, but she has this ability of, here is the message of healing that comes with it. Right. So it's not just evidence to prove, because the type of reading that Laura does, it doesn't keep the dead people dead, you know? It's like, oh yeah, this is the information that I'm getting to validate. And also, this is where they're still showing up in your life. This is what they're saying that they still see you doing. This is how they're helping to support you. And that's the kind of medium that Laura Schek is, and why I refer her to folks who are looking for that kind of stuff. So sorry, Laura, had to jump in and just be like, you guys just don't even know what she's going through. But can you speak to, what does it feel like when these messages come in for you? What's that like as the medium?
The messages always come in on my left side. I'm something called clairaudient, which means clear hearing. I hear them, and it comes in almost like a telepathy. It's a thought that I recognize as not being my own. Again, it always comes in on my left side. If it comes in on my right, then I kind of question if it's actually message from spirit. I'm also something called clairvoyant, which is clear seeing. And as I said, I have seen ghosts, full body apparition, but when I work, I get pictures in my mind's eye, almost like a memory. So I always say to my client, if I said to you, remember your grandmother, you would see her face, you'd see how she was dressed, maybe a significant piece of jewelry, you might see her house, you might see her pets. And I said, that's the type of information that I'll be receiving in my mind's eye that I then need to describe to you to my best capabilities. So that's really how I get the information when I work. I'm also something called clairsentient. So sometimes I'll experience bodily sensations, where if somebody died of a heart attack or a lung cancer, I might start feeling a little short of breath or start having a pain in my chest. Just another way for spirit to communicate to me who they are, or a certain piece of information that they're trying to relay to the client that I have in front of me.
Fascinating.
Is that scary for you?
To me.
Right? But for people who, like, you're having chest pains, and that represents someone having a heart attack or shortness of breath, how intense does that get? I mean, are you in pain when that happens for you?
Usually it's not intense to the point where I'm experiencing a lot of pain. I did have one communicator who did come a little bit too close to me, if you will, and I actually had to gracefully ask this spirit to kind of step back a little bit, because the physical sensation was becoming a little bit overwhelmed. But generally they'll give it to me gentle enough that I get the point without actually thinking to myself, is this something that I'm actually experiencing for myself?
Got it. And I'm curious too, is there like an overarching theme or message that is kind of consistent for you when it's like, what do we need to know? What do we need to know from the other side that feels important to share with us? Because most of us can't see it or feel it or taste it. It's still far away. This is such a lame question, but it's not my lane. So I'm just curious. And there might be other people out there like me that are curious about the same thing.
Well, the messages vary a lot depending on, who my client is, the reason that they're coming in for a reading. But a lot of times, spirit will want their loved ones to know if they were experiencing a devastating illness like cancer, that once they leave the physical body, the physical pain is no longer with them, that it was just a physical manifestation. A lot of times there's forgiveness. If there was a family situation where people weren't speaking with each other, or there were hard feelings or that type of things, a lot of times there's a lot of messages asking for forgiveness or apologies. A lot of times there's just love expressed from the communicator. Just, I want you to know how much I love you. I watch over you. I'm trying to help you. If the person is asking for guidance on something, a lot of times their loved ones will say, I'm trying to give you guidance on whatever it is that they're dealing with. So there's a lot of messages that do come through. It's really a very, I guess, personalized type of message. But generally, I guess the overwhelming theme is just, I'm still here. I love you. I'm happy on the other side. A lot of times people wonder, are they happy? And my communicators will say, yes, I'm happy on the other side.
That's comforting.
I love that. Yeah, and they're also not alone. So that's one that I've noticed too with people on the other side. Folks are like, oh, they missed out all this time here on Earth, and they're having a grand time in wherever the other side is, whether you call that heaven or the afterlife, and they're with people that they loved as well that made it there before them. So, and I also just want to jump in and say, Terry, I don't feel like anyone is far away from it. Maybe if you haven't had the training when it comes to other people's folks who have died and gone and crossed over to the afterlife. I noticed Laura does not use the word die. She's used crossed over. I'm trying to be a good girl here. But I think when it comes to when we ourselves lose someone, if we are open to it, people absolutely receive communications from their own loved ones who have crossed over in the spirit world. But a lot of times what happens is they dismiss it, or it's like, this is too good to be true, or they share an experience that they had and someone discounts that experience. And so, hearing from a medium, like, this is how your person is communicating with you, can be another level of validation for the person that comes in to get the reading. And for anyone watching today, we'll definitely have Laura's website information in our show notes, so you can get a hold of her if you would like to get a reading. And I'll also link to, Laura's a part of a group that does like finding missing people and cold case forensic mediumship group, and I'll link to that organization as well if you're interested in those kinds of services. So
I love it. Go ahead, Candice.
Go ahead. No, I'm cutting you off.
This is about me, and I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about Laura. But all I was going to mention is that I haven't had a lot of my really close family members. I'm older, and it's been amazing that I haven't lost more people in my life. I have both my parents are still alive. My grandparents, of course, have transitioned, and I have one grandmother I kind of feel, definitely connected with, but maybe that's why I don't feel things quite as intensely as other people. Now, I've had moments with pets that have transitioned. I'm like, oh, I just saw them go across what was this? I think or feel like I'm seeing things there, but not so much with people. So maybe that's part of it too. That's all I have to say. So go ahead. Back to Laura.
You must be psychic, Terry, because I was going to be like, Laura, you mentioned that pets come through a lot. That's a question that we hear a lot, is what about animals? So how does that work if someone's lost a pet? And you do animal communication. I said that before, but could you speak to that a little bit? Like, what's it like? Is it the same type of information you get if a pet's on the other side?
Yes, if a pet has crossed over, actually, it's kind of funny. I'll be in the middle of communicating with somebody that's crossed over, and then all of a sudden, I'll see again on my left side, let's say, a little dog walk by or a cat walk by,
I love it.
and then I'll finish with the person I was communicating with, and I'll say to my client, "Oh, by the way, I have a little dog here. I see the dog is predominantly white, but I do see that there are other colors, possibly brown or black on this dog. The dog's a little bit shaggy." So I'll try to describe the animal as accurately as I can to my client. And then when they validate, "Oh my gosh, yes, that was my dog, so and so," then the information starts coming from the animal itself. And it's the
Wow.
same type of way of communicating. I'll hear it in a thought form. And a lot of times the messages are so healing for the client, because a lot of times people have such a sense of grief and such a sense of loss with a pet. And it's just so healing to have these messages from their beloved pets. And it gives them a sense of closure too, with
Yes.
maybe things that they were feeling bad about, maybe in connection with how the animal crossed over. And it's just, it's so wonderful to be able to offer my clients that ability to heal from their loss of a pet.
I love that.
Right on. So, what are ways that people, if they have lost a pet or someone, another loved one, what are ways that they could connect? I mean, obviously see a medium, but is there anything that they can do on their own?
Spirit does try to give us signs. Some of the more well-known signs from our loved ones are finding coins in odd places. Feathers, too, I have been told, are a way that spirit tries to communicate. So you might find a feather in an odd place. Sometimes spirit, because we are all energy, and when we leave the physical body and go back to being an energetic state, sometimes spirit will play with energy. Like you might see a light that you could have sworn that you turned off is now on, or you might see a light kind of flicker. It's just a way for spirit to try to say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm still with you. I'm watching over you." Another thing that you can do is just try to, in a sense, meditate, quiet your mind, just be open to receiving messages. And you might feel your beloved person step in, and you might feel that closeness with them, or you might get like a gut feeling that they're trying to tell you something or give you guidance about something. So there is a way for people to make a connection with their person without actually having to go to a medium and have that full reading with them.
Right on. When should a person see a medium? Like what makes, like, at what point is it good to see a medium versus it's not so good to see a medium?
In my personal opinion, it's really up to the individual person. If you really feel like you want to explore that route, by all means, as I previously stated, do your homework. Try to find somebody that is reputable, whether again it be by word of mouth through somebody who's seen a medium or contacting a spiritualist church. A lot of people say it's not good to see a medium immediately after somebody crosses over. But personally, I feel it's really up to the individual's state. If you feel like, it's really something you want to do, then by all means, seek that type of information.
That's a really good point. So for those of you who aren't in wooey spaces like Laura and I, there tend to be a lot of rules about this is what you have to do in order to get a good reading. And a lot of that stuff are just opinions, but everyone keeps repeating it without taking into consideration individuals. So yeah, I really like that you said that. Terry, is there anything else that you wanted to ask? I feel like you want to ask something. And I could be wrong. That could be a no, and that's fine.
You must be psychic. No, I think the whole thing is really fascinating. And I think Laura is amazing. Everything I'm learning about her in this conversation today and the things that we learned about her ahead of time, real deal, McCoy or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I would love to sit down and talk to you offline just because I think it would be a great experience. And one of the things that I'm the most impressed with is it seems to be that there is, at the core of how you work, you're always trying to offer healing, to your clients that you're working with, not just by giving them a message and saying, see you later. It's like, wait, but there's a little bit more. These are some things that maybe if you implement or pay a little closer attention to, you might find your heart start to heal, or you can move forward from there. You're not trying to keep people stuck and, keep coming back. There's no Miss Cleo going on here. So I love it.
Free psychic reading. Yeah.
I don't know. And you have to be a certain age to know who Miss Cleo was, but no,
I've dated myself.
You're just like a beautiful being, and it's been really nice to meet you this morning. So
thank you.
Right. And Laura, did we miss anything? Is there anything that you feel called to say or bring up?
Another thing is if you go for a reading and you don't feel comfortable with the medium that you're seeing, if you feel like something is wrong, you don't feel like the information is accurate, in my opinion, you have the right to stop the reading. Trust your gut. If you don't feel like that's the reader for you, by all means, seek somebody else out, because there tends to be people that maybe aren't a good fit for you. So, really go with how you feel internally. If you're not receiving accurate information about the person that they are trying to communicate with, again, just, say, I'm sorry, this isn't resonating with me, and, go someplace else that might be a better fit for you.
I'm getting chills because in the past week, I heard from a couple people who had kind of that experience where the information they were told was not in alignment, was not correct. And a person receiving a reading, if it's psychic or mediumship or healing or whatever, there's a certain level of vulnerability that happens where you open up, and that helps the medium read you better. And in that state, you can be highly suggestible. So it's very important at the point when it's like, ooh, I don't know who you're talking about, but that's not me, that you don't. What I tend to see people do is if the medium was so correct on certain things or for other people, and then when it comes to them, it can be very easy to go, I felt like I was fine, but am I really depressed? Like, and you just take on this stuff that doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
So I really love how you're saying, like, get out of there. If it like zip up by saying, nope, no thanks, I'm not related to this. Especially if you've got mediums doing drive-by readings. So if you didn't ask, and because I'm a psychic medium, I've got tons of psychic medium friends, and it's interesting. The mediums who don't really stand in their power will attempt to always try to give readings and tune into people, and they swear up and down it just happens. And it's like, it doesn't just happen. You're not taking responsibility. And so they'll kind of drive by with their reading where you're just trying to talk about something, and they're like, ooh, I see. Like a conversation I had recently, someone was like, oh yeah, I think your cat's about to die, which didn't happen. But,
wow.
Random conversation, didn't ask, and this person just brings that up. And then when they saw my expression, they were like, oh, well, it might be a year or two more. And I was like, I can't,
Yeah.
I didn't give you permission to tune in. I don't like this. Like, why did you go there or bring it up? And it was like, oh, the information just came, so I gave it. And that's so irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these people given free readings, especially, not everyone who gives free readings, I'm not saying that too, but, be very mindful of someone invading your space with an unsolicited reading as well, and be like, no, shut that shit down, is what I would say. So Laura, how can people get a hold of you best if they would like to sign up for an appointment? How do they reach you?
They can find me on the website, which is www.celestialtouchllc.com, or they can look for lauraschek.com. I give my rates on my page. There is a scheduler on there, so you can schedule your appointment right there. I do Zoom readings, I do phone readings, as well as in-person readings in my office when allowable. So yeah, that's a good way you can find me. One point I do want to make too, that might clear up some things for people that aren't familiar with the work that we do, is I am not open to messages all the time. It's not like I walk around, an antenna on my head and I'm constantly picking up psychic or mediumistic feedback. During my training, we were taught when to be open to receiving messages and when not to be open to receiving messages, because quite frankly, for me, it would be rather overwhelming to go through my own day-to-day life, constantly receiving, feedback. Like if I was in the grocery store, somebody walked past me, boom, I'm on the, checkout line, boom, I'm walking down the street or in the post office, boom. It would be absolutely exhausting.
Right.
So for me anyway, I have to turn my attention and open up to doing the work and receiving the messages. So, that was just a point that I wanted to make.
I mean, I love that you made that point. And again, that's the difference between going to someone who they don't understand how to work with their ability and someone who's had the training. And Laura's got so many certifications. She's done so many things. She was listening in before we started, and I was like, Laura, no one's going to know what that is. But like on her website, all of that information is there. Like, she does so many things. She does so many things. Where to begin? Well, thank you so much for your time today, Laura. Thank you all for watching. Terry, how can people get a hold of you if they want to know information about the things that you do?
Probably the easiest way to catch up with me is on LinkedIn, Terry, T-E-R-R-I, last name Dean, D-E-A-N, or you can find me on any of the femcity.com websites. And what about you, Candice?
My website is CandiceThomasIntuitive.com. I also do a lot of posting about upcoming classes and events to my Instagram. On Instagram, I'm Candice Intuitive, C-A-N-D-I-C-E, Intuitive, no spaces or dots in between. All righty. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today. Thank you all for watching, and please tune in for another episode of 1, 2, 3 Conversations. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Laura.
1, 2, 3, 4.